Good morning, everybody. My name is Jake Connor here at the Walton County Extension Office. I wanted to take a little bit of time to share with you some upcoming events we're having here in Fax Extension. On Fridays right now at 9 a.m. here at the Extension Office, we are having our walkaway series where we learn a little bit about nutrition as a class and then walk around the track. Coming up on September the 14th at 9 a.m. we're going to have another estate planning class where you can learn all about wills, trusts, and the Georgia Advanced Directive for Healthcare. Coming up on September 16th at 2 p.m., we're going to have a budgeting 101 class. So if you're feeling like a lot of stress for money as summer comes to an end, we'd love to have you come by and learn more about how to take control of your finances. And then coming up on October the 3rd at the Walton County Library here in Monroe at 11 a.m. we are going to be doing a homeowner class on radon. Radon is a big public health threat here in Walton County, so we want to encourage everyone to test their homes for that. So if you want to learn more, please come by. If you ever have any questions about ServSafe, nutrition, losing weight, or saving money, please feel free to contact the Extension Office. We'll be more than happy to help you out. Thanks and have a great day. If you ever have any questions about any of that content that we just talked about, please feel free to call the Extension Office 770-267-1332, or you can stop by our office here at 1258 Criswell Road here in Monroe. Thanks.
Hey, I'm Casey Howard. I'm the Walton County 4-H agent. We are back in the schools for this school year, and we're very excited to be sharing 4-H with all of our 5th grade classes here in Walton County. We also have some after-school clubs coming up. We already started our pickleball club for kids age 4th through 12th. That's going to be every Tuesday until the end of October. We also have a new consumer judging team, which is a contest that teaches kids how to be a more savvy shopper. That's going to start on September 18th and is going to continue every Wednesday evening until the end of October. We also have our cooking club, which is going to meet on September 19th, and that's going to be Thursday evenings up here every month. And then we have our robotics club, which is going to be on September 24th, and that's also going to meet monthly on the 4th Tuesday of the month. So we have a lot of opportunities for your kids to get involved in a lot of different things. If you have any questions, please call our offich or email walton4h@uga.edu. Thank you.
Hopkins with Connect Ministries, and I'm going to let her tell us more about her nonprofit. I'm really anxious to hear more about it.
My name is Ann Hopkins. I am from Connect Ministries. I am the Director of Advancement. And so first of all, I just want to thank y'all so much for allowing us the opportunity to present to you and share with you a little bit about who we are. There is a problem in our nation, and it's that 43% of Americans are actually unchurched. And so if you break that number down, it is actually about 156 million people. If you were to put that into a little bit more of a visible number, that would be the 9th largest country in the world. So that many people in the United States are unchurched. Churches in themselves are weakening. Primarily not because of the people there, but because of the lack of strategy that the churches themselves have. Let me share my other one. Okay. No. Y'all, I'm so sorry. Connect Ministries started, and the numbers that I was just talking about were such a burden and a problem for our president and vice president that they wanted to figure out a way to help churches meet new people. So since then, we have actually helped over 2,000 churches get connected to over 250,000 people. There are several resources that we actually provide churches to be able to provide them the help that they need. Not every church is the same. Probably each of y'all go to a church that's totally different than the next. And so with that way, we try to provide a resource for each best possible way that they could, that they need to meet their needs. We have 4 main ways. One of the ways that we have is actually Connect Camps. You might have heard of Connect Camps before. We actually have 5 in the local area, within the surrounding counties. It is a day camp Monday through Friday that we partner with churches all over the nation to be able to provide this day camp for kindergartners who have finished through 8th grade. And it is an exhausting day filled with so much fun and activities, skills. We actually provide over 37 hours of programming, but with each skill, we actually are providing a way and that shares what the Lord is doing and whatever the main idea is for the day. It is a phenomenal resource that churches can offer their community for parents that are working full-time, for families who don't attend a church and who are unassimilated. But it's also a great way for children and campers to be able to move their bodies, to move their minds in a way, and be open to what the gospel and God's love can pour into their lives. And you might be wondering exactly what I'm talking about. Like, okay, this sounds great. I can say all of this all day long, but I feel like a video is so much more powerful. And so I want to share that with y'all.
They have had the best time, and I have had the best time, knowing that they are here, learning about Jesus, fixing their eyes on Him, and having fun, making new friends. They love to worship. They come home, they're full of joy, they're full of happiness, and then this makes me happy. This week of Connect Camp has been so great for my kids. They have come home every day ready to share what they've learned. We highly recommend Connect Camp. I know my kids are already looking forward to next summer.
God has worked in incredible ways. This week, we have been able to love on kids and families while this amazing staff of young people have given everything they've got. And together, man, we have seen God do incredible things this week. If you're thinking about Connect Camp, I would say yes, because we jumped in 100% and we can't wait to do it again.
My favorite part of camp was the crafts and giving.
The best part of my week here at Connect Camp was hanging out with my friends and meeting new people. Thanks so much for having camp this summer. It was really fun.
My favorite thing about camp is fire fun. You get to make lava lamps and elephant toys.
Thank you so much for camp. This has been the most fun experience of my life.
So that is just a little snippet of Connect Camps and what a remarkable experience it is, not only for the campers, but for the church volunteers who are taking time out of their week and pouring into the campers and the families that are there. It's also an incredible opportunity for the church leaders to be able to have new families come in and be excited. We work with them all year long and make sure that it's a partnership between us and those churches all year long to make sure that that week of camp is as successful as possible. We're doing marketing with them. We're making sure they're meeting benchmarks in regards to registrations. But it's also about the relationship that they're having with these families after our staff leaves, right? Like, we're there for 4.5 days. And so it's making sure that we are doing our best to equip the churches on what it looks like after we leave, and that they have a strong plan to assimilate these families. Just to share with you a little bit of our statistics from this past summer, we actually had over 47 host, well, we had 47 host churches. We had over 55 partnering churches all together that we partnered with this past year. In 11 states, we were everywhere from Tennessee to Texas. And this summer we were actually in Missouri, which was exciting. We had almost 10,000 campers. And so once we hit over, I think it was 8,700 each week was like a new record for us, you know. So like the department that was reporting to all of our staff. She was like, we're hitting a new record this week, you know, so that was exciting. In order to make sure that that happened, we had to have a strong summer staff. And so we had 140 young leaders, college students, and a few years beyond that, that formed 6 teams. Those 6 teams stayed together for the whole summer and went to these 47 communities. So 6 teams, 8 weeks of camp. There's the math. You're like, wait a minute, what about you're like, that's 48. We did have one church that did 2 weeks back to back. They have such a large, it was a church in Nashville that has 3 campuses. And so they decided to combine all of their campuses. But the most exciting number for us is that final number, that over 400 children decided to call Jesus as their Lord and Savior. And for us, that's the most important thing. Because it's not just that. A lot of these campers that we have don't have a Bible in their home. Nobody in their home, they've never even heard the gospel. A neighbor invited them. They got a flyer at school. So there's a number of ways that new campers can come to Connect camps, but that is one of the numbers that we're most excited about, but we're also most excited to hear about the stories and the ways that churches follow up afterwards. That to us is what's really special. Another way that we are providing services and resources to churches is through Connect Coaching. We launched that this past year in 2023. And in the same way that y'all probably know doctors or attorneys that are really good at what they do and they are great at their craft, they are not so great at coming up with a strategic plan or marketing. Well, the same can be said for pastors. You know, they are really great at being in the pulpit or shepherding a congregation. But they are not great at coming up with where they feel like their church should be in the next 5 years. And not every church has an executive pastor or a strong session. And so that's where we come into play, because maybe their community can't necessarily have a Connect Camps come in. But no matter the size of your town or your congregation or your church, we can partner with you and we can help coach you through potential areas where are your wins, where are your warnings. We can find those. We can help you come up with a plan. We can help you with marketing options as well. And so that's been something that's been really exciting, and a lot of smaller community churches have really been able to enjoy that. Another way is Connect Conference. So for many years, we have had an opportunity, we called it Connect Gathering, where all the churches that we partnered with for camp would come together, and we'd have experts come in and share with them about the best way to be, how to have a friendly and a welcoming congregation. What does it look like afterwards, after camp? And so we were getting a lot of feedback of, gosh, I wish our missions pastor had heard this, or I wish our senior pastor had been here to hear this particular breakout session. But we kept hearing that year after year, and so we were like, okay, we hear what you're saying and we'll meet the need. So we have created Connect Conference, and this year it's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. So any church of any size in any community can bring their church leaders or their congregation or their actual church staff, and they can come to Connect Conference and they can learn about strong strategies that they might need that are unique to their community, and bring them back and put those strategies in place. Because what good is a plan if you don't know how to execute it, right? Like anybody can come up with a plan, but how do you execute it? Where does the rubber meet the road? And so that's a lot of what Connect Conference is going to be able to do and equip these senior pastors with. Another is our Connect Development Program. It is not lost on us that we are in a college town, and so we feel a heavy responsibility to really pour into these college students that have a passion for learning in the real world business, but also growing in their faith. And so what we are doing is we have internships, we have apprenticeships, and we actually have a residency program where our residents can get a master's of ministry leadership. We have partnered with North Greenville College in Greenville, South Carolina, and then Impact 360 in Pine Mountain. And so this is a master's degree that our residents can actually get. Through that, like college students are actually, they're getting real world experience. They are working with churches one-on-one. Our marketing and digital apprentices are getting hands-on experience creating videos, marketing materials. You know, our business operations interns and apprentices are getting experience with data analysis and procurement, and you know, our logistics is getting experience in HR, risk management, those types of things that you can take a class in, but we all know you don't really know anything until you've actually done it, right? And so this is an opportunity to be able to give college students a year-long experience. Well, we offer it in 6 months and year-long experience to be able to cultivate those skills. We are also helping them with their professional development. How do you write a postcard? You would not think that might be such a novel idea, but it is to a 19-year-old. They have never written a postcard before. Or what does a professional email look like? You know, how do you speak with you know, a business person on the other phone? How do you answer questions appropriately and then be able to go back to your supervisor and know what to say? And so that is, it's a win-win for both of us. We're able to get like their help in making sure that all of the resources that we're providing to churches are executed in a remarkable and incredible way, and they're able to gain real-world learning experience in a Christian environment. When you're thinking about ways that you might want to get involved, there are several opportunities. Are you interested in learning about how your church can become engaged? Maybe philanthropically, or maybe actually strategically. There are so many ways that y'all can get involved. Or would you be interested in having a conversation later about what a deeper impact for Connect Ministries looks like? Giving to Connect Ministries is so much more than what I've shared here. It's more than a child hearing the gospel for the first time, or giving a Bible to a camper, or having a learning experience with a young adult as they grow in their faith, or walking hand in hand with the church as they are growing in their ministry. Giving to Connect Ministries in any capacity is really helping to build the kingdom. And so if anybody has any questions, I would love to be able to answer those for y'all or share any other information. And I'm sorry that I had a little bit of a IT hiccup at the beginning. It kind of frazzled me, and I apologize for that.
You're fine. I know that Bethlehem does Connect Camp. Are there any other local churches in our area that does a Connect Camp?
Yes, we have one in Watkinsville. There is one in Winder, I think. There is one, and that's a new one. We have one in Jefferson. We have the one in Bethlehem, and then we actually have one in Athens. Was that 5? That was 5. Any other questions? I gave you a lot of information. Sorry about that.
Is there sponsorship for individual kids as well? Like if we were to pay for camp fee type thing?
Yes, so we do offer camper scholarships for sure. And you can either do it as however many campers, or you know, a certain percentage of a camper fee per camper. You know, we can do that. So whatever you're interested in and wherever your passion is, I'd love to have a conversation, you know, about that with someone. So lots of opportunities.
Hi, I'm Jody Johnson. I'm here with another recreation report. We know it's football season, and we're about to start our rec football season this Saturday. So it's the Saturday after Labor Day, and we'll go up until about the 1st of November is when we start doing our playoffs and whatnot. So good luck to the Monroe, Loganville, Social Circle, and Walnut Grove teams who are all playing youth football. We have right at around 600 kids playing football, and then about 500 cheerleaders as well. So good luck to both of those teams. Our fall baseball and softball is underway. We've been playing for a few weeks, and we'll end about the 1st of October with that, right before fall break hits. Our track cross country team is also doing meets on Saturdays at various places. I believe they're going this weekend over to Jackson County, and so good luck to them. Our soccer program is also running well. All these programs are about halfway through their season, except for football that's just now starting, which means our basketball registration is now going on. You can register for our youth basketball season, which we usually have about 1,000 kids that play. You can register online, and when you do, make sure you either create your account on our Walton County website, or it's called Civic Rec, and then you can pick the area that you want to play in, whether it's Monroe, Loganville, or Social Circle, and that's pretty much where you'll practice. Loganville has to use some of the school gyms because of the numbers that they have, but that's pretty much where your home games will be played. We do play a county-wide schedule where you do play in Monroe, Loganville, and Social Circle. So if you want to play basketball from ages 5 through 17, boys and girls, you can go online now and register. We'll have in-person registration starting next week with our online, but anybody can register the entire time. Most people do it online. It's just very convenient to do that, so make sure you get registered for our youth basketball program. That registration is going on now, because it will fill up fast. Again, we usually have around 1,000 kids that play. So we had our first annual reservoir run, 5K, and we had about 25 folks come out, and it was great weather. If you recall last week when the temperature finally dipped down and it felt a little tinge of fall in the air, so we had a great run. Next year our goal is to get about 100 runners out there, and we're looking at some other events that we can do down at the reservoir. If you haven't been down there, it's a beautiful place. Kind of resembles what a state park kind of looks like hard labor. The water is beautiful. It's very good fishing down there. It's a minimal fee to get down there and park. I think it's $10 to put your boat in the water down there. Right now that's the only real event that we have that goes on daily, that you can go in, put an electric boat in the water and fish. There's really not a whole lot of fishing on the bank right now. We're hoping to get a grant and expand some pier fishing and some bank fishing out there as well. But my understanding, they do catch a lot of fish that come out of there. We have a lot of local boaters that go down there pretty regular. So it's a great place to go look around. If you park, walk around, and get back in your car, I think you'll be fine. There's nobody riding around putting tickets out there, but if you are putting a boat in, obviously you need to get an annual pass, or there's a pay box there at the gate that you could pay to park if you're going to actually go out and fish and stuff. But I would recommend anybody to go out and see the reservoir. It's on Fairplay Road out towards Social Circle, out near where the old Rivian plant was going to go, or still going, I'm not sure. So go out Fairplay, explore, and check that out. It's a beautiful place to go see. Our senior aerobics class is still doing great, filling up every day. We have 6 classes a week. You can go online at waltoncountyga.gov to see where and what time those classes will be. We have 2 in Loganville, 2 in Social Circle, and 2 in Monroe each week. So go online at waltoncountyga.gov, find out where that's at, and it really will change your life to the better. It's good for not just the exercise and getting into shape, listening to great music, but it's a very good social time as well, where you can get out and you can meet new folks. I see them out right afterwards. A lot of them get together, they go eat lunch together, so it's a great time with fellowship as well. We have a lot of good things going on. The weather is great right now, so find a park near you. It's on our website at waltoncountyga.gov. Lots of open walking trails. But you can always come inside to our community centers where we have memberships there. And again, if you're over age 60, it doesn't cost you anything to join. So make sure you come in and talk to one of our attendants, and they can tell you all about the community centers and all the equipment that we've got. Thanks to the Walton County Healthcare Foundation, who did give us $50,000 to go towards new equipment that's going to be put into place at the community centers in Meridian and Felker. So thanks to them for allowing us to get involved and get that new equipment. And the old equipment we just can't get parts for, but it is going to get repurposed to our firemen, our first responders are all going to get that so they can stay in shape as well. So we've got, it's kind of a twofer that will make sure that they stay in shape and we get new equipment for the citizens to use. The park at Walnut Grove is doing real well right now. It's going vertical with some of the buildings, so it's going well. You'll start seeing the turf fields go in soon. That's out there on Highway 81 in Walnut Grove, between Loganville and Walnut Grove. So in January you'll start seeing turf go into place, so that park will be ready next November. So look for a big change in all of our programs. We'll get that huge park built out there with our amphitheater, our community center, pickleball courts, the baseball and softball fields that are being built. So it's going to be a new era for Parks and Recreation when we get that facility built. It'll be our 5th regional park in our county, which we desperately need to get some of the kids that we're kind of overcrowded in the west end of the county. So this will really help us out. So we're looking forward to next November when this park comes into our inventory. So again, go to our website, waltoncountyga.gov. We kind of keep all of our stuff updated on there. And come see us at the park and make sure you register for basketball. It's going on now. Till next time, thank you very much.
Hi, welcome to Monroe Walton Center for the Arts. It's finally fall. I feel like I can breathe a little bit. It's not quite so hot outside. And we've got new shows coming in to the Arts Center. Actually, kind of 2 shows. We've got a show opening, 2 shows opening on September 11th. One is opening, of course, here in our gallery. It's our regional juried show. It's got 40 plus artists in it and 80 plus pieces in it. I forget the exact numbers, but that will open September 11th. Also, at the Row, we are having a one-woman show. Nancy Jeanette Long, who's one of our painting instructors and fabulous artist, she is having a one-woman show over at the Row in their private dining area. So anytime you're going over there to eat or to get something out of their shop or deli area, you can ask to go or just go back to their private dining room and see the one-woman show that is Nancy Jeanette's art. And everything is available for purchase. And she's just a fabulous painter. You'll love that show. It's lovely. So 2 shows, both opening on September 11th. The other kind of new thing we have going on is we have a fall break, kind of a mini art camp. It's the week of fall break in October. And in the morning, you can choose, kind of like we do with our summer camps. In the morning, you can choose the mixed media camp from 9 to 12, or you can choose a pottery camp that's from 1 to 4. Or if you want an all-day experience for your child, you can sign up for both camps. So, and in that in-between time, they'll have a supervised lunch with our art teachers. So that's coming up, and you need to sign up because space is very, very limited. We only have 8 or 9 spots open for the pottery camp, maybe about 20 for the mixed media morning camp. If you go to our website, monroewaltonarts.org, you can learn all about it. Come in here and talk to us about it, or pick up a class list. We have kind of a new feature wall with our classes featured on it, with QR codes that will lead you straight to registration. We're hoping that that will help connect people to our classes, and that's up in our front lobby area. Another new thing that we have coming up is one of our top selling items in our shop are loud Italian earrings. If you've been here, you know Kim's earrings. She's just awesome. They're hand-poured resin earrings. They're very lightweight. They've become one of our top sellers after Rebecca's pottery. But Kim is doing a class, and you can make your own resin earrings. You can make a set of 3 earrings, 3 sets of earrings, so 6 earrings. And that is coming up in October. But new classes coming up in September all the time, adding new things all the time. We're going to have a date night early, I think in October. I don't have the information in my head yet, but we're going to have a date night where you and your partner will paint similar and coordinating kind of witchy, wizardy gnomes. So it'll be a lot of fun. So come see us, come visit us. We're open 7 days a week. Of course, it's always free to come and see the gallery and shop in our shop. And our next big event here will be the Christmas show, and that will open November 1st. We've also got Kids Art Day coming up September 21st. We'll have lots of kids, all kid-centric activities and arts and crafts on September 21st. Anyway, come see us. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Steve Brown. I appreciate you being here, and First Baptist Church appreciates you being here. And this is First Baptist Church Then and Now. So Andrew Jackson was not a member of First Baptist Church. But just to start, I thought I'd give you a little historical perspective. Andrew Jackson was president of the United States when the Baptists in Monroe started thinking about a church in 1828. Our flag at that time had 24 stars. And we read this notice, which appeared in the Athens paper in June of 1828, which is a notice to carpenters, will be let to the lowest bidder on the 26th of June next, the building of a Baptist church, 50 by 30 feet of a good finish in the town of Monroe, Walton County, the plan of which can be seen by applying to James Orr of this place. The terms will be made known on the day of the letting, and then that's underwritten by the commissioners of the church. And this is the church that the lowest bidder built. And we don't know the exact date that the church was built, but it was in 1828, 1829, along there. But it was not built in this location. In this picture, the church is sitting where the First Methodist Church sits today. This is Alcovey Street going up here, and this is South Broad running south in this direction. So the church was actually built over here, right where we're sitting today. And we don't know exactly which way it faced or whatever, and you can tell by that right there what I know about technology, but that gives you the idea. The church was here when it was built. It was constituted in 1829, and this is a list of the charter members of the church. And there are a few of those that are worth noting, starting with Henry and Sarah Hardin. Henry Hardin was a Revolutionary soldier. He's buried in the Old Baptist Cemetery across McDaniel Street over here. And Henry Hardin gave the bell to the church sometime in the late 1820s, maybe 1830, along there sometime. And you know the bell still works. Listen. Okay, my wife's trying to ring the bell. The bell right now is surrounded by plexiglass, and it's hard to hear, but it's still up there, and it's approaching 200 years old. It's probably the oldest thing in this church, even older than Tommy Odom. So This is what it looks like. Also, Wilson Lumpkin was a charter member of the church. Wilson Lumpkin went on in the 1830s to become governor of Georgia. At that time, Atlanta, which was not called Atlanta, it was called Terminus because the railroad tracks ended there. Well, Governor Lumpkin was so well liked that the people of Atlanta wanted to name the town for him. And I don't know whether they wanted it to be Wilsonville or Lumpkinburg or whatever, but he prevailed upon them rather to name the town for his daughter, Martha. And if you remember your Georgia history, you'll remember that during a part of history, Atlanta was known as Marthasville. Something you may not know is that Martha Lumpkin was born right here in Monroe on Broad Street, about where John's Supermarket is today. And then under my menu down here, Martha Walker. Martha Walker was the grandmother of Governor Henry McDaniel and the great-grandmother of Governor Clifford Walker, both of whom were members of this church. A few of the early pastors, we mentioned Henry Hardin. Henry Hardin was an ordained Baptist minister. We don't know if he ever preached at First Baptist Church. There was no record of that, but there is a possibility. The first recorded pastor is John Hillier. John Hillier served from 1829 to 1834. He was a member of a very prominent family, the Hillier family, and a relative of his organized the Hillier Rifles, which was one of the units in the Confederate Army that came from this area. Then following him was Edwin Dyer from 1834 to 35. Pastor Dyer, there were 113 members that joined the church while Pastor Dyer was here, and he left here and became a missionary. In 1865, Dr. Gus Nunley came from 65 to 76. Not only was he pastor here at the church, but he was also the editor of Monroe's first newspaper, the Southern Witness, in 1870. He went on to become president of Mercer University, LaGrange College, and Columbia College in Florida. Now, for years and years and years, Dr. Nunley held the record as the longest surviving pastor of First Baptist Church, but that record was beaten by Dr. Glenn Money, who has been with us for 18 years now and is doing well. Okay, moving forward a few years, in 1846, we find this in the Southern Banner, a newspaper in Athens, that Reverend John Hendricks has married John Trammell of Atlanta to Lucinda Prince of Monroe. So things are going forward, and moving even further to 1884, we read some items of Georgia news that pork is selling for 4 to 5 cents a pound in Bainbridge. Elberton will have a grand, fantastic ride and ball on Christmas. Of course, this is January, so I think we missed that. And then down at the bottom, we read that the members of Monroe Baptist Church are worth $1 million. And that's no chump change in 1884. So, moving from January to April, we find out that that money's burning a hole in their pocket, and they've decided they're going to build a $6,000 church. Well, a few months later, it seems that cooler heads have prevailed, and they've decided to build a wooden church for only $4,000 to $5,000. So at this time, in 1877-78, they picked up the little old church from over here where we are now and moved it over to where the picture was taken, where the Methodist Church sits today, to make room to build the new church, and this is that church. And it was built between 1884 and 1885. Dr. H.D.D. Stratton was the pastor when this church was built. It faced Church Street, so the front of this church would be, as you're facing forward, this would be the left side of the sanctuary. A little later, Stokes Walker came as pastor here. He was also a descendant of Martha Walker, the charter member that we mentioned earlier. And Stokes Walker is the first pastor that we have a photograph of. He was pastor from 1886 to 1890, and just a point of interest, at a very young age, at the age of 23, he became a missionary assistant, and he sailed to China, where at a prayer meeting he met his future wife, and that prayer meeting was held in Lottie Moon's house. If you're a Baptist, you're familiar with Lottie Moon. Well, during this period of time, if you joined First Baptist Church, there was no baptistry. So I'm thinking that most people joined in warm weather, because you had to make your way over to, as this postcard says, Lake Linda. That's a typo. It should be Linda, not Lindu. But anyway, you had to make your way over to Lake Linda, which the locals call Felker's Pond. And this is where the baptisms took place. Now, if for historical or hysterical reasons you joined the church today and decided that you wanted to be baptized in Felker's Pond, you'd be out of luck, because about the only thing you could do at Felker's Pond is buy a used car. Felker's Pond was at the corner of Spring Street and Felker Street. This is another view of the same church, and this photograph was taken by someone who would have been standing where our church office door is right now. This is the church pastorium, which burned in 1910. In 1906, the city of Monroe brought in city water. We had a water system, and we had electric lights to come in 1906. So from 1906 to 1910, you could run a hose from the pastorium to the church and fill up the baptistry, and you could be baptized inside. When the pastorium burned in 1910, the pastor and his family left with nothing but the night clothes they had on. And from then on, they lived in this boarding house, which at that time was a hotel. This was on Spring Street, about where Sherwin-Williams parking lot is today. Jimmy Dean and Russell Jackson lived in this house at one time also. But here's the newspaper article about the fire that took place in Pastorium, and it tells us that not only did the pastor and his family lose everything except what they had on, but Mr. and Mrs. Arthur Mobley had all of their wedding gifts stored there, and those were lost as well. I don't know why they were there, but they were. This is a postcard of the same church that could be purchased at Carmichael Drugs during that time, and it's hand tinted. Just a little Monroe history involving our church. This picture was made by Mr. E.M. Carnes around 1910, and he was on top of the courthouse when he made it. This is Broad Street going south. This is Washington Street. At that time, Washington Street was named Pearl Street. And you can see our church back here, the wooden church, where it is, where we're sitting today. This is the big white house in front and to the side of the church. This house didn't start out like this. It started as a much smaller house, and we have an effort underway to try to rename that house the Giles Lanya's house. We'll speak about that for a moment later. This is the E.M. Carnes house. The man who's making the photograph lived here and had a studio upstairs. Today, this is Lee and Andy Malcolm's real estate office. This house is where Governor McDaniel lived when he returned to Monroe after the Civil War. And the house, when he lived in it, was not here and didn't face this way. The house here is facing Church Street, but it originally sat on this lot and it faced Broad Street, and this is where Pinnacle Bank is today. The house in 1906 was moved back and turned to face Church Street. And in the late 1880s, Governor McDaniel built the McDaniel-Titchener House and moved there. This is Jack Arnold's house, which was at the corner of Washington Street and Broad. And the United States government bought this property in the 1930s. The house was picked up, moved back, and turned to face Washington Street, and a new post office opened here in 1933. Today, that building is our art guild. And this is Mr. Phillips' house. In 1920, the stockholders of the Hotel Monroe bought that house and property. They tore the house down and they built Hotel Monroe there, which was a fixture in the life of the town of Monroe until the 1960s, when the hotel was torn down and the Farmers Bank moved into a new office there, which today is Wells Fargo. In the distance, we see the Coleman Mobley House, a beautiful mansion on a hill, and this is where the Methodist Church is today. Coleman Mobley was president of the mill at one time. And down here in the corner is the Walton Hotel, which is still with us. It's where the Tribune has their new offices now, and was also a vital part of the city of Monroe, really at an earlier period as a hotel. It stopped being a hotel before 1900 and just became storefronts and offices. Later on, we decided we needed a new sanctuary, and so the wooden sanctuary was sold to Macedonia Baptist Church, which is an African-American church between here and Gratis. They took mainly the timbers to their location and built this church on the frame of the church that we sold them. We also sold them the pulpit furniture, but sometime later we decided we needed it back, and so through some type of deal, good or bad, we furnished them with some more and got the pulpit furniture back. Okay, in 1912, Dr. Key came to the church as pastor, and he came from that center of biblical knowledge, Washington, Georgia. Now, I have this write-up. Oh, it's another person from Washington, Georgia. Here's a write-up about Dr. Key's arrival in Monroe and his call from Washington. And we look in the middle and read this part. It tells us that Dr. Key has been a popular pastor of the Baptist Church at Washington, Georgia, and for 6 years is the most prominent fixture in that section, and he plays the tuba in the local band. So if you compare certain aspects of Dr. Key's facial features with another tuba player that we know and love from Washington, Georgia, you can see some similarities there. I'm sure even though he looks stoic and scholarly in this picture, that Dr. Key has a great sense of humor. Well, it was while Dr. Key was here that this sanctuary was built. And although we celebrate the centennial in 2015 because that's when the cornerstone was laid, the dedication was in April 2016. And this is the way the church looked when it opened. This is a postcard that's been tinted, but you can see no annexes, no additions, but a beautiful church. This is another view, and it behooves us to note that the church cost $29,200 to build. It was built in 1 year, and by the time of the dedication, the church was paid for without ever making a public plea for funds. These are just some pictures of some young girls skating on the sidewalk shortly after the church was built. And paved sidewalks were not something that was very common around Monroe at that time. Actually, none of the streets were paved at that time. So I guess that was a boon to them. This is a Sunday school class taught by Mrs. Emery Darby. This picture was made in 1916, the year the sanctuary was dedicated. And I won't try to tell you all these people, but I think I saw Randy in here a while ago. This is Randy's uncle, Ernest Camp Jr., let's see, this is Booth Williams, who would later be mayor of Monroe, and I believe this is Charles Briscoe's uncle or great uncle, not sure which. And then in 1926, we got the pipe organ, and this is the program from the dedication of the pipe organ. Charles Sheldon, came down from Atlanta and performed a concert to dedicate that organ. And let me tell you, I'm sure that most, if not all of y'all, are smarter than I am. And Susan and I have only been members here a few years, but up until 2 or 3 years ago, I thought these pipes right here was where that beautiful music that Sarah plays was coming from. And then, lo and behold, I found out these are just for looks. They don't even make music. The real pipes are in the sections to either side of the choir loft, and they look like this. But if you're as dumb as I was, you don't have to admit it. You can just... This is a copy of the church's program from 1929. It was called the Eclograph. And in this particular program, they were celebrating the 100th anniversary of the organization of the church from 1829. And this is the oldest photograph we have of the interior of the church. And other than the folks that saw this Wednesday night, you're the first people or the second people that have ever seen this picture. Mr. Carnes made it at some point in time, and Larry Witcher printed it for me last week. The church is apparently decorated for a wedding, but you can see right off that the light fixtures are different. If you look over here, here's a doorway where the piano sits today. And take a closer look at a couple of these things that are different. There's a close-up of the way the lights look then. And you see the door. If you look under the door, you can see that the floor is tile, not carpet. So under the carpet in here is hardwood, and that hardwood was laid on top of the tile. When you leave, you notice the tile in the foyers. That's the tile that actually covers the whole church floor. But Glenn and Todd were telling me when the hardwood was put down, it more or less destroyed the tile under. The tile's still there, but it's chipped from the nails in the hardwood. But you can see the different here, the door here, and the alcove there. Notice in the door there's an exterior window, and that wouldn't be there today because there's an annex that's been added to this side of the church. So this picture was made sometime after 1926 because the organ is in, but we don't know exactly when. They also had curtains on the balcony, and I don't know what purpose those served. Maybe some of you can figure that out. I can't. Here's a ladies' mission union from the 1930s standing out on the steps. Everybody in fashionable headwear. And then in 1950, it became necessary to add an educational annex. And that's this part right here. This picture was taken from Jackson Street, and actually was taken during the second annex's construction, but it shows you the annex that was built in 1950. This is some photographs that were made in the sanctuary during probably the 50s and the 60s. You might can pick yourself out in there or somebody you know. This when Reverend Jett was here. You see that at that time there was a wall that separated the two areas below the balcony back there, and there were 3 walls in the balcony that separated the sections up there. And this is a plan for the second educational annex. Here's a sanctuary. This annex had been added in 1950, and in 1962, which is the date on this plan, they were planning to add a second annex. The original plan for the second annex called for the closing of Jackson Street and the second annex would go straight back in this direction. Rufus Harris, president of Mercer University, owned this property then. I think he used it as a summer home, but he was going to give the church a contract to use this part of his property as a parking lot as long as the church was here. But the city wouldn't close Jackson Street. Well, the church already owned the Henderson property. This is Church Street right here. Now, today, that'd be part of our parking lot, but Church Street was still open back to Jackson Street at that time. We owned the Henderson property here, and we bought Ezra Chick's property here, which gave us a property on both sides of Church Street. So the city did agree to close Church Street, and the second educational annex was added in this direction. And that's this picture here. And that was completed in 1968, but it was not completed without some almost disaster. This is a picture made from the parking lot beside the sanctuary of that. But in 1966, we had a fairly major fire in here, which did some serious damage, as you can see from these photographs. Excuse me. So in addition to the finishing the second annex, they had to repair all the damage from the fire too. In 2002, the sanctuary underwent its most extensive remodeling and renovation. And we can thank our friend Archie Mayo for these photographs that show some of the work that went on during that renovation and remodeling. And this is a building of the next educational building, the offices and the fellowship hall. I want to mention a couple of pieces of property the church owns that are not part of the sanctuary. The park that we have across Wayne Street that fronts on Broad Street, originally that park had a house on it, and the house was at one time the pastorum for the church, but it was in disrepair. So the governor and Mrs. Clifford Walker made a contract with the church whereby they would buy the house and property for $5,000, and that $5,000 would be used on the educational annex. And at the same time, they sold the house that was on the property to a gentleman who took the timbers and the boards or whatever outside of town and built another house out of it. And all that money went to the new educational annex, and then they paid to have this park built in memory of their son, Sanders Walker. And if you look at the bench in the park, you can see his name on that. Now let's go back to Mr. Carnes' photograph from the courthouse. This is the one I showed you a while ago with what we have incorrectly called the Carter Watkins house for years and years and years. And I don't mean to knock Carter and Watkins. I'm sure they're really nice guys, and they did have offices in this house for a few years. But if we step back in time, this photograph of basically the same area was made in 1905, and if you look at that house, it was not the palatial home with a wraparound porch on it. It was a rather modest two-story house that faced Broad Street, and that house was owned by Judge Thomas Giles. Well, Judge Thomas Giles is the man, he was ordinary of Walton County, and he was the man responsible for building our historic courthouse, which he did without the county going in debt. He also built, at that time, the new jail, now the historic jail on Millage Avenue. So he lived in this house, and you can see there's scaffolding beside the house at this time, and they're adding this part of the house on the side plus the wraparound porch. In 1898, the Lanyas family bought that house from Judge Giles, and they had the renovations done. This is Judge Giles' photograph. And this is the way the house looked about 1907. The original house stopped right here. This was it. The Lanyas family added this part, and they added the wraparound porch. The Lanyas family was a very benevolent family and did a lot for the city of Monroe over the years. This, if you grew up in Monroe, this is Kathleen Lanyas Williamson, who lived in the house and who swept the steps and the sidewalk every day. She was quite young in this photograph, but this is the way the house looked in the 1960s with trees out front. And steps had been added because another part of the Lanyas family was living upstairs in the house at that time. And this is the way it looks today. And my request of you is to try to remember and call the house the Giles Lanyas house, which is much more historically correct. So, through all those years, we have come to the present with this campus and this facility that we sit in today, and the additions that have been added all the way up through the offices, the fellowship hall. And this campus allows us to do the two things that Baptists love to do more than anything else, and that is to worship our Lord and to eat. Attendance, I appreciate you being here.